Welcome to a Pneuma conversation, a place where the unseen becomes seen, a space where the silence become heard and where the rejected are accepted. Together we breathe. Together we remember that we are all remembered, we are all loved, and we all belong. These are the conversations that remind us what it is, what it means to be alive. Today, we are in conversation with Mark Stidham. Mark, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. It's very honored to be here.
Yes. I am so looking forward to our conversation. We've had a few minutes to talk before we've recorded. Um, I'm going to warn our audience ahead of time. This might be a little heavy in our conversation, but we'll get through it. But everything belongs, and I love having these conversations. And I have some audience members that will follow along right along with us, and it'll be okay. So, um, but I found you on TikTok. Well, we found each other on TikTok, and I just love the videos that you're putting out. And so, just to get us started, Mark, what has shaped you into the life you are living now?
Well, I guess I've always had well, I was raised in a Christian home,
Okay.
so I was always raised in a spiritual atmosphere or a religious atmosphere, as it were, and um, raised by Christian parents in the Pentecostal brand of Christianity, and a lot of that shaped me. Of course, I've had a lot of experiences. I've been in and out of church. I preached when I was 14 years old, and I did that for a while, and then I went into my rebellious stages, of course, and left church and all that stuff. And then later in life, I came back to church and I became a pastor for a couple of years, and then in the Assemblies of God, and teaching mostly what would be considered, I guess, it wasn't necessarily Assembly of God doctrine because I was doing more word of faith type
Okay.
ministry, and you know, believe you receive it and speak, speak what you want and speak
Yeah.
your healing or your supply or whatever. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I left there and went in as a youth director for about 3 years. Then I tried to start my own church for a while, and
Okay.
some people came that had been in various places, and but that kind of just um, went away, and so I began to explore other avenues. Went into universalism, you know, salvation for all people, and
Mhm.
then I moved into things like New Thought and
Okay.
metaphysical type um, spirituality, I guess you could say, and explored all kinds of subjects, everything from ritual magic to uh, Christian Science to unity and all the different things like that, metaphysical interpretation of Scripture,
Mhm.
and now I'm just trying to understand who I am in my essence, not
Mhm.
my thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, but before all that,
Sure.
what am I? And I found
Mhm.
that I am, to give it a name, would be just I.
Yeah.
And I realized also that anybody else that gives themselves a name would use the same word, I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you were to ask I to say something about yourself, first it would be silent. But then if you pressed it a little bit more, could it say? It could only say I am
Yeah.
and nothing more, no more qualifiers. Now,
Right.
from a finite perspective, we can look and say that I am, or the infinite, or God, or whatever you want to call it, is infinite, but itself knows no time, so it doesn't know infinite until it localizes itself in individuality, into
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
you, into everyone.
I like what you're saying, because in the work I'm doing, I'm inviting people to remember who and what they are and where they come from. which is what you were also saying. Back to the very beginning.
Right.
So, you know,
Sorry, I
so
had a scraper out there
oh, okay.
and I couldn't hear very well.
Yeah. We're okay now. You can hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah, it's
Okay.
going.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are inviting people to remember their essence.
Right.
And this is one of the many things that has drawn me to you. And you're preaching it, but you're not putting it in people's faces. You're not saying they have to believe this way. You're just saying
Right.
this is my understanding of life. And I love what you're doing. Um, would you say that you felt a call in your life from a very young age?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Did
like
you
I said, I
feel
started
different? Yeah, sorry,
14
go ahead.
years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you feel different from your peers because you because of that calling? I
I mean, I think what it boils down to is we all have one. You see what I'm
mm,
saying? Now, what that calling is and what direction that goes, not everybody's a teacher. It's like
sure.
not everyone's an artist or a musician or
Yeah.
you know. I'm a musician, but I know musicians who are way better musicians than I am. But you know, excuse me. But
Yeah.
I think we all have a calling, or
Sure.
we have this sense of what is my purpose? What is my reason? Well, we have a purpose. I mean, and we get lost. Sometimes we get lost into that I am my being or that I am,
Mhm.
and it's yeah, and we do recognize it fundamentally. We are just one being, but at the same time, the localization of our uniqueness has a purpose.
Yes.
It has a reason, especially in what we see within our finite mind. It's sort of like, we have to make concessions to live this experience. We make
Mhm.
concessions about, we know we return to that oneness, but at the same time, we live in this world and we try to, then from that, we
Yes.
express and celebrate that I of our being, that oneness, that what is aware of having this experience type
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you were 14 when you preached your very first sermon.
Yes.
Can you tell that how did that come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had a couple of older cousins that felt called into the ministry, what we call had a calling,
Okay.
into
Yeah.
ministry. And,
Yeah.
I saw them and I said, well, I feel the same thing. You
Sure.
know, but I kept waiting for same thing in any spiritual experience. We want the thunder.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
I
that's right.
want the skies to open up and say, you are called to preach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Without that, you always have this little bit of doubt. Am I really called or am I just looking at my older cousins? And so I don't know, I felt that call and then I told the pastor at the time and he was really into youth, letting the youth, and so like I said, he let me preach just like he did those. I was think 14, yeah, was the first one, and it was about a 45-minute sermon.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot in there.
You had a lot. So so at 14 you preached your first sermon,
hmm
and then I think you said it was a couple years later you got into a fight or you punched someone.
Well, yeah, yeah, in ninth grade, they called me preacher.
Okay.
I carried my Bible, I did all that on the
Sure.
bus. I went through the persecution, man,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I did the
and
same thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
then in gym class towards the end of ninth grade, I got in a fist fight. I mean, the guy was fouling. Come on, no reason to fight it. But you know, I was young and full of adrenaline, and we was playing basketball anyway. So
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't think what he was doing, and we just kind of got in a fight. And then, of course, I got
Uh-oh.
persecuted the opposite way. What happened to turn the other cheek? And all that stuff. So then I went into the rebellious years. I mean, 10th grade was my mini dark night of the soul.
Okay.
for that age. And then I really went into some rebellion. I stopped doing good in school. I did all that, that kind of stuff. Never really got into drugs because uh, I didn't have any way to go anywhere, at the time.
Yeah.
Then eventually I got to drive, and then when I got into junior year, I still was not like back in the church or anything, but I calmed down and started doing good in school again, and stuff like
Okay.
that. And I just kind of was in choir and stuff like that, and it kind of just focused on that kind of stuff. But I never really went. I was in my 30s again before I.
Okay. I was just going to ask that. So
Yeah,
it wasn't until you were 30 years old or your 30s till you started rediscovering your call. Could I say it
right.
that way? Okay.
Yes. I was a finance manager at a Ford dealership
Okay.
for about 3 years, and I got to the about the 2.5 year mark of doing that, and I was just I couldn't hardly stand to go in. I mean, it was just like I knew there was something else for me to do, you know.
Mm.
Now the first two 1.5 to 2 years of being a finance manager, I was going out with my manager and wife and all this stuff, and we were dancing and drinking and all that stuff. And then at some point in that 3 year period, towards the end of that, I just didn't want to do any of that stuff anymore. And I didn't want to do the work or the career. And I had been in sales since 95. That was from 95 to 2003. So, I was either in sales or then I got into the finance part. And I just felt very dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. So I went back to church and became a member, quit smoking, quit drinking, and you know,
Okay.
just took the correspondence courses, and that took a
Okay.
little while because I did them, was real fired about them for a while, and then I got kind of bored with them, and then it goes back to that. I want to learn what I want to learn,
Yeah, right, right.
but
Did you have a moment prior to that where I'm not doing what I want to do, but I don't know exactly what it is I'm supposed to do?
yeah, I think that was it. And I tell you what, my mother, like I said, at the time they were really into word of faith, and like I said, I hadn't been to church for years,
Okay.
but I remember having a lot of experience. It was Pentecostal church, so it's all about experience,
Sure.
baptized in the Holy Ghost, and that shouting, and all that.
Yeah.